So many times I come on the internet and I find somebody claiming, especially someone of African descent, that Black Americans don't have a culture. And that is the most mind-boggling, stupid thing I have ever come across. Because I'm like, let's go back to the 2000s when we were wearing baggy jeans in Africa. We were on bandanas. We were doing the short, near-long hairstyles. We were doing Beyonce. We would go to the salons and be like, oh, I want a hair like that. It's Kelly Rowland's face. And you look like me, but you want a Kelly Rowland? You sit there and they do that, you know. And then we were on bandanas, we were on baggy jeans, we were on the, the crop tops, and half of your stomach is, the cutouts. Like, what do you mean? And then the swag walk among the brothers, when those brothers used to tie those bandanas, they have baggy jeans and then they are bouncing. What the fuck was that? Was that culture from your village? See, when we talk about culture, we are not talking about anything else than just the way of life. Black Americans have made the N-word cool. You can use that in Africa with your friends because they've made it so cool that it doesn't seem derogatory anymore. People are so fast to claim, oh, reggae, raga, dreadlocks are from the Caribbean people. But then we come down here and there is hip hop, but we don't acknowledge that as a culture. It's giving haterism. Black Americans have influenced cultures in Asia. There is what we call K-pop, which is literally everything black, in streetwear, in everything black. I'm like, y'all are crazy out here to claim. Okay, so someone said, oh, what is the taboo? What taboo do you guys have? What kind of a taboo is in the community where Black Americans live in for them to adapt to? One thing y'all forget is that Black Americans had to adapt to the communities, to the surroundings around them. They were not like the Caribbean people who were grouped on their own and left to figure out and develop their own culture from whatever was left from their African culture. But the Black Americans have had to coexist with their white counterparts. That means there is a lot of influence still from the mainstream white culture into the Black culture. But amidst all that, they have stood out. We still have, when you're talking about the Black American culture, you cannot forget hip hop. You cannot forget the baggy jeans. We cannot forget their language. When a Black American speaks, you can't confuse that language with any other language in the world. Just like when someone speaks patois, you cannot confuse that language with any other language in the world. You know that's coming from the Caribbean. You know this is coming from a Black person in America. So when you talk about this whole Black Americans don't have a culture, are you stupid? Someone needs to invite me on a podcast because I need to be teaching people a bit of history and less of stereotypes, okay? Peace.
Hi, lovelies. How are you all doing? My name is Olivia. In case you're just coming across my video for the first time, thank you for stopping by. Okay, so guys, there's been this trend going on that some Africans, of course, and some immigrants said that Black Americans don't have culture, and to me that's wild because I remember when some certain hairstyles will come out and we want to braid that kind of hair, you get and then some certain things that Black Americans are doing that we're copying them and still making them in our country. So you coming out to say Black people don't have culture, it sounds so stupid and disrespecting. You are actually stealing from these people's culture, and then you are coming to say they don't have culture. Why not you give credit to the owner of the cultures you have been stealing all along? Where is the jazz, the music you listen to, the hip hop? Where are they from? Like, this is hilarious, guys. So if you respect the culture, then respect the people, okay? Give credit to them and stop watering it down. All right, so let's look at these videos together and see what people have to say about culture, of course. Okay, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, support the channel by subscribing to the channel.
What kind of spirit has possessed this boy?
You see him?
They made this.
Cam got his eyebrows done, y'all. You think he cute.
Bad to the bone.
But you're not a girl.
Bitch, like the girls want to be the punk.
You're not a real girl.
The girl wants to be the punk. And my sister right there, you see her.
Because he's fully blown, right? He's all the way in it, right? He's all the way in that Jezebel spirit. Neck popping, nails, eyebrows. He really thinks he's one of them, but he's not. Sorry. And the lady in the video, salute to you for telling this young man the truth, all right? Because he's not only embarrassing you, he's embarrassing all of us. This type of behavior is embarrassing. I don't care what anybody says. And the only reason why it's gotten this far is because of black women. Y'all the ones who accepted it, not us. Y'all accepted it. Y'all let it run through the community. And now look at the problem that we have. Look, I want to say something else, but I can't because my page is about to get banned. I want to go hard. Pause. Pause on this video. But I really want to go hard. Pause again. But I can't. Okay? But listen, family, this type of behavior, we're going to have to nip it in the bud. This cannot come to the new America. This can't come. I'm sorry. Lil Nas X, Negroes like this. Sorry, you're not welcome. How we going to make more black people with a bunch of people like that in the community? How we going to multiply? How? All we going to do is multiply STDs. That's all we going to do. All right? Look at Houston. Look at Atlanta. Running wild. This type of behavior needs to stop. Seriously.
Hey guys, it's Leash. Listen, I've seen a few of these videos, and you can let me know in the comments if you've seen these or if you just want to comment on this, about this. But I think it's interesting that so many people, and it's crazy because it's like even like other black people that aren't black American say that black Americans don't have culture. Like, it's the weirdest thing to me when people say that, because I'm like, are you blind? Are you deaf? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you not in the land of the living? Because here's the thing. When it comes to black culture, I think it's so ingrained in world society as a whole. Now, you can't even just say it's just American society. Black culture, black music, our food, the way we wear our hair, dressing, the way we dress, the fashion, like all that is something that most people around the world, not just America again, y'all, want to actually, be a part of in some way. And I just don't understand where this comes from, where certain people think that black people, black Americans, don't have culture. What? Like, let me know in the comments if you have experiences, or if you are like also as confused as I am as well. Because I'm like, do you not know who we are? Like, do you not know the trends that are set because of black people? Do you not know of our cooking, the way we worship, the different things that we hold dear to us that are sacred, that create a beautiful and amazing culture? Like, and if you don't know, well, I mean, that's kind of like your fault. But it's the accepting of the fact that we have such an amazing culture that it goes beyond the United States and affects everybody on a global scale. I think it's jealousy. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think folks are just jealous because what we have created has surpassed what most cultures would only dream of doing. Yeah, let me know what you think.
I'm taking a break from my usual content to go on a little rant as a foundational Black American woman about this disgusting trend that I'm seeing on social media lately. So essentially, I'm seeing a ton of people who are not foundational Black Americans, who are most of the time not American at all, chiming in on what our culture is, like what our value systems are, or the lack thereof, and actually growing their platforms off of our rage, our irritation with their content, or like us going in the comments and defending ourselves and trying to educate them. It's essentially growing their platforms. And since they've realized this, they've deduced that they can essentially just like talk about foundational Black Americans and grow their platforms. And we need to have a block party, as someone said, and stop platforming these people. What bothers me the most about this whole discussion about where you from, know where you really from, or like people constantly trying to do a gotcha moment when they encounter Black Americans by asking us, no, where are you really from? The gag is, and here is the fact, the answer is so simple that you're all missing it. Where are we from? Drum roll. America. We're American. That's the answer. There's a gentleman on this platform who I've consumed his content before. I believe he's Nigerian. He likes to have these really like deeply intellectual conversations where he's sparring back and forth about colonialism and history. And usually he's kind of, I can agree with a lot of things that he says. And but today was the day. Today he sat across from a Haitian American woman and he said to her, name me 2 values that African Americans have. And she was like, oh, what do you mean? She didn't really understand the question. She's like, what do you mean, like their values? And he's like, yeah, well, you can't name them because they don't have any. They don't have a culture. And then he starts going on about what a culture is. And, you know, he's someone who's very sharp, witty, intellectually sound. And so if he's sitting across from someone who cannot keep up with him or just is not as informed on historical events, it'll make it appear that his point is valid. And you see people in the comments, and it's rare that I swim in the comments, but today it was a deep dive because I had followed his content before, and today I was utterly disgusted by people, you know, saying, I bet they're going to say their values and their culture is like entertainment or basketball. Well, let me educate you on something. What this is people, there is a certain group of people who cannot stand the fact that Black Americans, listen, we simply do not have an immigrant story in the way that most people are used to hearing a story. We are not immigrants to the United States, okay? Foundational Black Americans have been in the United States of America for as long as the majority of the white people that you encounter in this country. And so outside of English settlers, the descendants of English settlers, Black Americans, okay, foundational Black Americans have been in the United States for centuries. So a lot of people, America has such a fascinating story that it's a massive melting pot of different cultures who ultimately come together and culminate into being called Americans. When you encounter the average white American today, you might ask them, which the point is you guys don't ask them. You won't ask them where they're really from because your idea of American is white. We have to be honest about what's happening here. You never ask white Americans, so where you really from, right? And if on the chance that you do, and you say, well, like, where's your great-great-grandfather from? They might say Ireland or Scotland or Italy, for example. Well, yeah, because a lot of those people, their families migrated here much, much later, okay? But if you ask the average Black American, foundational Black American, an FBA, where's your great-great-grandfather from? And they say America, you get this look of like, no, where are you really from? Okay, so you want me to say great, 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 like centuries of greats? Like how long, like what do you want from us exactly? And also, if I'm going to, what you're looking for, because I am someone who is Black, you are looking for me to give you a location in one of the 54 countries, or particularly West Africa. If I do that, I also have to go back and give you my great, great, great French ancestor, or the other one that's Irish. I have to give you like a grandparent from Ireland, because the majority of foundational Black Americans are mixtures. A lot of it is from slavery and a lot of it is not. There are lots of us who, because of all the mixtures of people, as in like myself, I have Creole heritage. So again, a melting pot. And you want me to give you want me to pull out some country from like 4 centuries ago. Why? Why? No one else has to do that. What this is showing is that there is a bias towards Black Americans, that you feel uncomfortable with us identifying as American. You want so badly for us to say something that is not true. I cannot tell our story as Black Americans without everything that comes along with us. So it's like everyone else is outside the club and we have our own little club, because we have a very peculiar and unique story as foundational Black Americans, right? Because we have ancestors who are from Africa. We have a lot of European ancestry, French, Spanish, German in some cases, mainly Scottish, Irish is the majority of us, or in French and Spanish. And then you have so there's so much happening in my family, like original roots are Louisiana. So there's a lot there also. And so people from Louisiana, so you have us as Americans as a whole. And then as foundational Black Americans, we have all these mixtures. And then as Black Americans, we have a shared peculiar experience where we can see each other out and we can do a head nod, or we know the lingo, or we understand one another. But even in that, we're so diverse that someone from Louisiana is different than a Black American from Louisiana is different from one in Alabama and Chicago and Detroit and New York. And you guys don't understand American history. That is the problem. And so to get on these platforms, someone give you a microphone and you start not even being American at all, saying they don't have a culture. But if I asked you to name me 5 rappers, you can do that. If I asked you to name me 5 inventors, Black American inventors who created something that changed the lives of all of us, you can't do it because you think that all of our culture is made up of singing and dancing or dribbling basketballs because you don't know anything. And you see degeneracy on the news or like little takes and little sound bites on the news and you're like, that's them. That's who they are. You don't know us, okay? And also, the history of us is so nuanced and complex. Only we would understand, and even some of us don't even understand how deep it is. The problem is we're American and you have a problem with that. I don't know why. But to answer his question, when he asked a young woman, so what's their culture? We're American. What are their values? I don't know, the pursuit of happiness, God, family, liberty, justice, individualism. You want to separate Black Americans from being Americans so bad that you're just showing your nastiness out and throwing it into the ether and thinking that you all are so smart and making all these little jokes. But the gag is, we're American, full stop. That's where it stops. And you're never going to get the answer that you're looking for because we're American. We don't share the same story. We're not the same people, in fact. We are a completely different group of people than who we started out as in this country. Pick up a book. I'm very proud to be a foundational Black American woman. Our culture is so rich. It's just such a mixture of so many different things, and it just brings out so much joy and so much creativity. And like, it's great to just have like a background with like so many different things. And hit the block button on these people. That's actually neuroscience. Back on the subject of the type of content that I typically create. When there's negative energy, pull your energy from these people.
Y'all know what's getting old is these celebrities trying to downplay the Black culture, hip hop, R&B, what we make, what we stand for, who we are, what we represent, and the fact that we influence every other fucking country in this fucking world. Black Americans, the culture we've created in the midst of extreme cellular and physical, spiritual, mental, emotional oppression, has influenced every sector of entertainment, every industry in this entire fucking world. The teacher is never concerned with being in competition with the student. The teacher just creates and teaches. Only the student, only the arrogant student that is still looking for identity, looking for exception, looking for respect, challenges the teacher.
I need y'all to keep it a buck. Y'all do not like Black Americans. Y'all don't respect us, nor do you respect our culture. And that's why the Black diaspora wars will never fucking end, because it starts with y'all. I don't know if it's jealousy or hatred or some animosity has been built up over the years, but it needs to fucking stop. To come into my comment section and say that Black is only a race and not a culture is actually really fucking disrespectful, and it diminishes almost 500 years of fucking experiences in this shitty ass country. There's a difference between Black America and white America, and y'all fucking know that. And to say we don't have any culture when everything around the fucking world is influenced by Black culture is fucking ignorant to say. So I brought up my whiteboard because maybe some of y'all are only visual learners. When I say somebody is Black and not Black, it means they're not Black culturally. Black does not equal Black. See the B's? This is race. This is ethnicity. What can go under here? Nigerians, Kenyans, etc. What can go here is Americans. And Americans only. Do y'all understand? So when you guys come here, you can be Nigerian American. You can be Kenyan American, but you can never be Black American. You can never be African American. You can only be whatever country you're from. Even if you're first gen, second gen, if your ancestors do not have whips on their fucking back, you cannot claim this. Y'all know there's a difference. Y'all just want to diminish us of our culture and our experiences, and it's truly fucked up.
All right, immigrants, let's come to the front because I want us to have a conversation. A couple of weeks ago, Kai Cenat made a comment about how supposedly African Americans don't have any culture, and I think it's time we talk. I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in the Caribbean and raised in Europe, and I've been here in the United States, living in the United States since I was about 13 years old. But when I was a little girl, I would come and spend either part of the summer or the entire summer here with different family. And I began noticing like little comments here and there early on, but I think when I was 12 years old, is when I finally began realizing that there's something really messed up on how a lot of immigrants talk about African Americans. So my dad was very, very successful for a very specific chunk of time, and he lost it all eventually, like by the time I was like 16. But when I was growing up, he was definitely amassing more and more success and money. And so we moved, and by we I mean him, his wife, my step and half siblings, and then myself. When I would come visit, we were living in a decent house that was a bit small, in a neighborhood that wasn't, I wouldn't say it was the hood, but it was definitely a bit run down, lots of potholes, unkempt front yards type of deal, just, you know, smaller houses, etc., etc. And when I turned 12, when I was 12, we moved to a nicer neighborhood. This neighborhood had much bigger houses. It had very nice, like very nicely kept lawns. The streets were very beautifully kept. Everything was super, super nice in this new neighborhood. And it was clear that we were like moving on up, right? And so my father hired day laborers, migrants, to come and help us with the move. And I remember sitting in the back of the pickup truck, and I remember listening to the men talk, the migrants. These were men from South and Central America and the Caribbean. And they were talking about the people in the neighborhood, and they were talking down on the people in the neighborhood. And I was very confused for a number of reasons. So the people in the neighborhood were all African American. As far as the eye could see, all the way down, it was all African Americans. And it was clear that this was like a generational neighborhood. Like it was clear that there had been families that had been here for years and years. And obviously this was not my first time in that neighborhood. Like when they bought the house, we would come and check out the house and like go around the neighborhood and stuff, right? So it was clear that families had been living here, and it was clear that they had built this neighborhood to be what it was. They were the ones that keeping it as nice as it was. And again, nicer houses, bigger houses, etc., etc. And so I was very confused from the sense that we had just gotten there. Like literally, we weren't able to afford it before this, and we had just gotten there, and like there was no room for us to talk down on the people that clearly built this. And then on the other hand, the day laborers, the migrants, mind you, this is no classism shit, because I myself was very poor for most of my childhood. My dad had money, and I only experienced money when I would come and visit him. Other than that, I was broke. My mom was broke, we were broke. And so this is no classism shit. But the day laborers, I was also very confused with them, because it was very much like, can you even afford to live here? They built this and they've been here. You can't even afford to live here, and yet you're talking down on them. And this feeling of like, we just got here and y'all are talking down on them when they built this to begin with, has been a pervasive, persistent, ongoing feeling for the entirety of my time here in the States. I've been here for basically 20 years now. I'm in my mid-30s. And I have been so annoyed by seeing this over and over and over again for a number of reasons. First of all, because you wouldn't be able to be here in this country, period, if it wasn't for African Americans. Not only because they built this country on free labor, literally built this country on free labor, but also because through the 1910s and the 1920s, the United States was passing act after act after act that was forbidding us, migrants of color, to come into the country. The acts that they were passing was forbidding Mexicans, was forbidding Chinese folk, it was forbidding any migrant of color to come into this country. And it wasn't until the civil rights movement, until African Americans literally put their bodies on the line. They got mauled by dogs, they got shot by water cannons, they got spit at the counter of restaurants, they got killed in order to attain some sort of equality, some sort of freedom within this country. And thanks to them, within a year of them winning the Civil Rights Act, the quotas for migrants of color were abolished. If it wasn't for African Americans literally putting their bodies on the line, you, migrant of color, would not be able to step foot into this country. And so I need you to understand that you should be extremely grateful, not only for the fact that they built this country, but for the fact that they won the freedoms that allow us to be able to be in this country and create a better life for ourselves. But that's not all. The other part that really frustrates me about this is that African Americans have been the cultural pallbearers for the entire globe for decades. And I'm talking about anywhere that you go in this world, you will encounter African American culture. Music, clothing, hair, anything, everything. Anything and everything that they come up with, you will find it in Spain, you will find it all across Europe, you will find it all across Asia. And what I find to be extremely frustrating, in line with the comment that Kai Sanat made, is that y'all will take their culture, enjoy their culture, turn around, and then not give credit where credit is due, and then look down and talk down on African Americans. And to me, that makes absolutely no sense. And I need you to understand that all the stereotypes that y'all like to heave upon African Americans, all the things that y'all claim they are, y'all claim that they are ghetto and hood, which I have another rant about that and how y'all talk about ghetto and hood and all that stuff, but a different video. Y'all say that they're ghetto and they're hood and they're uneducated, whatever the hell the things that y'all claim they are. I would rather be all of those things than to be a liar, to be a thief, and to be a hypocrite. Because if you're taking their culture, lying about where it's coming from, and then continuing to enjoy it, you're a thief, you're a liar, and a hypocrite. And frankly, I'd rather be everything that you say African Americans are than to be those three things. And so if you're one of those people, whether you're here in the United States or you're a K-popper in Korea, I don't care. I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. If you dare use anything that African Americans have created and then turn around and look down on them, whether that be culturally or even being able to be in this country, I need you to do better. I need you to do better. I need you to do better. I'm over this. I'm so tired of this. Like, do better.
Okay, so y'all seen the video of that man passionately talking about how Black Americans had no culture. I think I have something clicked in my mind regarding why the rest of the diaspora keeps saying that we as Black Americans have no culture when we as Black Americans clearly can see what our culture is. It's very confusing for us. And I think that part of the issue is that we do not have an immigrant story as Black Americans. Black Americans are not immigrants. Black Americans are Americans. We literally were here before America was America. We were here at the inception of this country. We are Americans, period, point blank, period. But every other part of the diaspora has an immigrant story. They definitely have one when they come to America. So if you are from outside the America and you are a black person, that you come from outside America,
African or, Caribbean, or even like a Black Brit who has an immigrant story to the UK. There is a term called cultural fossilization. It's something that I've heard immigrants, not just from the diaspora, but also Latino immigrants describe, that I never connected it to why people say Black Americans don't have culture until today. Cultural fossilization is when, let's say, your parents immigrated to America from Nigeria in the 80s. Okay? Whenever they did that, their culture was kind of frozen in time. So whatever culture they had in Nigeria when they came to America, they maintain that culture, and they maintain that culture with all the other people that are around them, all the Nigerians that are around them. So their culture is like solidified, and they pass that on to their children, and that's the culture. Meanwhile, back home in Nigeria, the culture is evolving, just like Black American culture is evolving. So your culture kind of gets concentrated. If you come from another place and you come to America, your culture from back home kind of gets concentrated into this one solidified culture. It doesn't evolve. It just stays frozen. That's why they call it cultural fossilization. And I've heard Latinos say this as well. Like they would have this culture, and when they go back home, they speak in ways, the slang is different, everything's different, and people are looking at them like, why are you talking like it's 1985? That's the year their parents immigrated here. So their culture stays the same. And the reason why they say that Black Americans have no culture is because our culture evolves like any culture would. Our slang evolves, our style of dress, our, music, our hairstyles, just the way that we are, our thoughts, our feelings, the way that we move, it changes because cultures evolve as time goes on. But if you came from another place, your culture didn't evolve. It stayed frozen in time, in the time that you came here. So that, I think that's part of the reason why they say Black Americans have no culture, because their culture is like put in glass, and they do the same cultural norms that they did 40 years ago. They continue that, and they think that like, immortalization of that time and of their culture is culture. They don't see it as the evolving of a group. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think that's also very unfortunate, because you're seeing that you don't have the evolution of your culture. Your kids come here, and then by the second, third generation, they start to take on the characteristics and mannerisms of Black Americans because our culture stays evolving, and you don't like it. So then you lash out at us. That's just my perspective. Tell me what you think of cultural fossilization.
I think people try to discredit Black American culture because our culture is so prevalent globally that people automatically associate it with American culture in totality, when it's rooted, the culture that you are seeing with your own very eyes and hearing with your own very ears and touching and feeling is Black American culture. And to say that we don't have a culture is disingenuous because it is so prevalent globally. I came on this conversation because of the conversation around Black American culture within New York, specifically on Juneteenth, because here in New York, Juneteenth, when it is being celebrated, they are playing a majority of Caribbean and Nigerian music at a lot of these events, which is not Black American culture. But see, that is another example of how people think that Black American culture doesn't exist. And so, let's just play Black diaspora music when the holiday is specifically for Black Americans. Like, we have our own fashion, we have our own cuisine, we have our own dialect, and it varies depending on the different regions you're in. Here in America, you have different
groups of African Americans. You have the Gullah Geechee from, North and South Carolina, and I forgot the other states. But you also have Creole people in Louisiana and in Texas, and you just have different groups of people. You have people from the West Coast. You have people from, the Midwest. You have black people from the Northeast. Like you have, and we all contribute to Black American culture. You know what I'm saying? We all, music, every genre of music is rooted in Black American culture. Understand that country, blues, jazz, hip hop, R&B, soul, all the music genres, country, it originates from Black people. You have your Southern Blacks. You know what I'm saying? You just and it varies depending on what state you live in. Like they have their own culture. They have their own culture. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole activism thing. That's Black Panther. That's California. That's Californians. Gangster rap, California. G-Funk, California. You have go-go music. Like you have your different cultures. And a lot of it is rooted in African culture. But to say that we are whitewashed or we don't have no culture because we are American, when you are a colonized country, okay? And when the Caribbeans have been colonized as well, I'm talking about the whole diaspora. You can't say that we don't have a culture when foundationally our values is American Western values. Our individualistic, mind state, our nuclear family instead of extended family, how we exalt that over the other. Like that's American culture, capitalism, American culture, Western culture. So to sit up here and say, oh, we don't have a culture because of slavery, when you've been colonized too in your country, I think it's disingenuous. It's disingenuous because y'all wasn't Christians prior to foreigners coming into your country and taking over every part of your country. Like, let's not do that. Let's not do that. So, willfully decided to, be enslaved, be captured and sold into chattel slavery and become property and just accept American culture. No, we didn't have a choice. But also, we were stripped from our language. We were stripped from our traditions. As soon as we got off the boat, we were baptized. And we still create our own culture. We still, that is the fire that we have as Black Americans. Activism, like civil rights movement, like, are you serious? We spark movements as Black Americans. No shade. So to sit up here and act like we just don't exist and we are just, obsolete is real crazy and it's real disingenuous. I am from California, but I live in New York City, and I have noticed that when I tell people, because I work in the medical field, so when I tell people that I am American, because people will ask, so what are you? A lot of people will ask, what are you? I say I'm American because I'm American. I was born American here in America. I am a descendant of Black American slaves. Like, I am American. You know what I'm saying? It's like the reaction is like, oh. Like, and I don't know. A lot of people say that I have West African features. And people probably think that I'm not American, but I'm very much American. I'm just, we have different, there's different cultures, Black American cultures from different regions. And I guess I don't present as a Black New York American because a lot of times Black Americans here in America, they're actually not descendants of Black American slaves. So it's like, they're like second generation. So it's like, there's like there's like a cultural understanding.
I think when people of non-Black American slave ancestry communicate. And so, yeah, so New York is a melting pot, but let's not forget the Black Americans who migrated from the South and came to New York and created hip hop and the Harlem Renaissance and all this other culture here in America. Let's not act like this never existed. So to wrap this up, okay, we all been colonized. If you are from the Caribbean, you are a descendant of a Caribbean slave. We all come from Africa. I mean, I'm not into like the whole Black Indian thing. I know that a lot of times Native Americans were grouped, documented and grouped together, and they were called Black as well, because anything that deviated from white wasn't white. And also, but maybe, I don't know, maybe there were, Black Native Americans here in America prior to chattel slavery, but I would never say that chattel slavery didn't exist. I would never say that, and we didn't come from Africa. Technically, Africa is the motherland. I don't believe out of Africa theory. That's just me personally. I mean, but scientifically, the first and oldest human being, in humanity began in Africa. I think in Kenya. But yeah. But at the end of the day, like, we all came from the same, continent. We've all been enslaved as Black people or colonized as Black people and stripped from our culture as Black people and influenced by European culture. But that doesn't mean that all of us don't have a culture, and especially Black Americans, because we're American. That doesn't make sense. It don't make sense.
So word on the street is Black Brits are mad that Black Americans are claiming America. But baby, what else we know? Like, it's crazy because I went to school with Black Brits, I went to school with Africans, and I went to school with Afro-Latinos. Afro-Latinos, baby, you could claim Dominican Republica, Puerto Rican, you could claim that because you got that in you. Like, I'm sure you've been, your history, your origin traces back there. Black Brits, I know your origin traces. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what they claim, but they don't be claiming what we claim. And then Africans, baby, you know the difference between what kind of Nigerian you are. You Igbo, you Yoruba, you know all of that. I went to school with people who knew all of that. But Black people, this all we know. All we know is Chicago. All we know is Oakland. All we know is New York. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to be Black American, yeah, we're Black American. That's all we know. I'm so sorry they colonized us. I'm very sorry we don't know our roots. Are you gonna teach us? And if not, shut the fuck up, because we only know what we know. And so, like, when y'all call Black Americans like ignorant or entitled or have no culture, baby, this is the culture. We are the Kendrick is the culture. SZA is the culture. Black Americans, now y'all getting me mad, because Black Americans are the culture. And I love everybody else in their culture, especially Africans. I'll say a true African down, that's their culture. The dashikis, the Kwanzaa, the weddings, like, Africans know their culture too. But what I will say is Black American culture is popular culture. This is what is popular in the media. We are popular culture. We share it. You're right. I will say that. We Black Americans are so giving. Whether we want to get that title or not, we are so giving with culture. We exploit our culture. We're learning how to pull back a little bit. But from what we've seen, a lot of it has been colonized in general. Hence, we have been colonized. Black Americans are the most colonial based out of all of the fucking diasporas. Clock that, okay? But don't be mad at Black Americans, because all we know is America. The America we create, of course.
The reason why other races and other nations of Black people believe that Black Americans do not have culture is because that is a lie that was sold to Black Americans, and Black Americans ran with it, and they heard it come out of our mouth, so they feel like they can run with it too. However, as I go through the conversations and I watch videos and I listen to people talk and just understanding my understanding of culture as a Black American growing up, hearing other Black Americans speak within my family, within my community, I begin to realize that a lot of us don't even know what culture is. A lot of us equate culture back to old or what's ancient or what we believe to be originality. But when you think about it, whose culture is really original? Culture and Black American culture extends far beyond hip hop because culture is more than music. And when we're discussing culture, we're discussing shared traditions, systems, and values that shape how a group of people live. Again, culture does not mean old and ancient. Culture can form wherever an ethnogenesis took place. Well, hey, Black Americans are a product of an ethnogenesis taking place. Therefore, we created our own culture amongst the environment that we were accustomed to. Just like every other Black nation, Black Americans have endured the effects of colonialism. So therefore, a lot of Black Americans aren't hip to what our culture is, or we don't identify our culture when it's in our face. We have our own language and dialects that's literally being studied and taught in colleges. If it doesn't exist and it's not real, why is it being discussed and taught? We have our own social customs. We have our own form of etiquette. We have our own mythology. We have our own form of storytelling. We have our own holidays. We have our own rites of passage, our own cooking structures. We have our own kinds of every damn thing. Our oral history, our elders, how we choose to deal with our community may look different than other nations, other Black nations. I can go to my African homegirl house and meet her grandma, and how I present myself to her grandma might be completely different than how she has to present herself to my grandma. You come to my grandma's house and she offers you something to eat, you're going to have to eat it. But I might have to dress a certain way or talk a certain way or eat a certain way when going to her grandma's house because the customs and the culture is completely different. Not to mention the food that's going to be cooked is going to be completely different as well. Not to mention, I might not even be able to understand her grandma, just like she might not be able to understand my southern ass grandma. And a lot of people want to take away from Black Americans by saying, well, oh, you got that from white people. Oh, you got that from white people. Like, let's be fucking for real. White people have their own way of being. Black Americans have their own way of being. The reason why it look alike is because we share land. We are all Americans. However, the way we American is completely fucking different. Black Americans also talk at a different rhythm. We walk at a different rhythm. And this is often imitated. You see it in music. You see it in acting. You see it in how we dress. You see it in how other people try to dress just like us. Because of colonialism and this Pan-Africanism, we've been conditioned to believe that culture is supposed to look ancient and look tribal, like what we see the Native Americans doing and what we see the Africans doing. However, culture is living and it adapts and it also evolves over the time. That's why Black Americans have so many back in the day stories. But back in the day, we used to do this. And back in the day, we was doing this. This is why hoodoo is so important, because we're doing the things that our elders and ancestors did on this land. African culture is proof that when you strip people of everything, something new emerges. And that something new, even though it's often imitated, never duplicated, is always trying to be snatched from us and reclaimed by somebody else. Like, give us our God. Stop.